Now, I guess what we'll talk about now a bit, when it comes to your gas saws, they are two-stroke engines, so you will have to use a gas mixture. Check with your particular model. I'm not even going to tell you because I don't want you messing it up. If you use too much, you'll bung up the exhaust on it. If you use too little, you'll burn it out. So when you get a saw, check. If you get an older used one, just go to a dealer and they'll be more than happy to probably look it up for you and tell you what you need, especially if you're going to buy it from him. Okay? I also like to use premium gas for the chainsaws. I find it just works that much better in the colder weather and the damp weather than regular, and because you're only buying, you know, a gallon worth, it's not a significant cost difference. Okay, so let's I'm going to jump ahead and then I'm going to come back a bit here. When it comes to chainsaws, of course, the chain is one of the main things with it that you're going to have to replace from time to time. I do a lot of cutting of tallets or skids, as people may call them, so if you start doing that, don't be upset when you hit a nail. Okay, it's going to happen. You're going to hit a nail, I guarantee it. And when you do, this is what's going to happen. I'm going to find some teeth that are you're going to break teeth from time to time. I'm giving you a close-up here of a chain, okay? I should really show you this first. Every chain has a little guard, like a guide like this. Okay, it's called a riser or a guide. And then the actual tooth is here, and it's on an angle. And they go... Sorry, I've got so many teeth broken on this old one here. They'll go this way, and then they'll go this way, and this way, and this way, okay, as they go down the chain. And there are different types of chains. I apologize if I'm bouncing around onto here. There is also called a safety chain, which I believe this one was. Yeah. A safety chain has an extra guide or a riser in here. Okay, what that does is this helps the kickback, prevents the kickback from happening or the thing bouncing around on you as much. What I don't like about them is, of course, then they're not as aggressive in their cutting, so it takes a lot longer to cut a log out. And it's harder on you because you have to push harder, right? Now, when you go to replace a chain, don't make this little mistake that I did. Actually go and get a dealer or the actual chain. It really is worth it. I went to our Canadian Tire store, and on the back it'll actually say that it is for my Stihl 017. It says it right there in the box. This is proof, by the way. I have a Stihl 017. When I took this chain out and put it on, it wouldn't work. Not only was I didn't know it was the safety one either, but it wouldn't work. And it wouldn't spin around. I couldn't figure out why. So I went back to my trusty friend here in town and bought another Stihl chain. And you know, it wasn't really a whole lot more money. I thought I'd be saving some money buying a cheaper chain this way. Because I cut skids, I'm always breaking it. Well, as it turns out, the groove that the chain rides inside on your bar, there are different thicknesses of that groove in there. And this one here, these, whatever you want to call it, I don't know what the actual name is, but this part sits inside your groove, is wider than the actual Stihl chain is. So it was too thick, it wouldn't work. And I asked him, I said, well then why in the world would they say that that's for my saw? And he says, because they know you're going to spend 20 bucks on it, take it home and not be bothered to bring it back. He said, they'll list all kinds of stuff on there, but they don't really know what they're talking about. So I advise you right off the bat, don't waste your time with that. Okay, so you're going to break a chain. Well, let's say you buy one now and you're cutting skids and you took one of these teeth off. I'm sure there are a lot of people that advise you don't ever use it again. And you know what? I'm not going to argue with that. I won't say that. But you want to go out and buy a chain every time you're going to go cut skids, and that's fine too. Right? You may not break a teeth off every time. I've hit lots of nails and you don't break them off. One time I bought a chain, I put it on. The first cut, I hit a nail and I broke 3 teeth off. 20 bucks down the drain. I continue to use them basically until they just won't cut anymore. If you get a lot of play in a chain like sideways, if it really gets wore out, I would advise replacing it. You don't want a chain to break, that's the thing, or you don't want it too loose on your bar either. I'll show you that in a minute. So a lot of guys will tell you there's a wear mark and how much. As you can see, I've really used this chain for as much as I could get. I filed the teeth back as far, and it simply wouldn't cut anymore. So I had to be forced to buy another one. Okay, so trying to keep this as smooth as possible for everybody. Let's talk a bit about the chain and how we're going to sharpen it and how we replace it. You'll need a couple of tools for this. The flat file you don't use very often. I'll show you what you do with that. keep in mind that I was taught by a professional how to sharpen a chain, but I've learned a few of my own tricks. So they work for me. Somebody else that maybe they're professional will say, well, maybe that's not a good idea. You know, great, comment. Let's, you know, make sure everybody's got the best advice, right? This usually comes with your chainsaw. This has a little screw tip on the end and your bolt on the back. It also is really handy to have one of these vise. You don't have to spend a lot of money on it, but it makes your life a whole lot easier when you go to sharpen it. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to take this off, and I'm going to show you how to tighten the chain and how basically to put it on. Okay, so I've got my bar off and my chain. You don't have to take this off, by the way, to sharpen it. I'm just taking this off in case you're replacing it for the first time, or maybe they come in a box that way. One thing you ought to remember, because I've done this and I've heard other stories of other people doing this, a chain has to go on the right direction. I've never actually got so far as to try to cut with it on backwards, but I've been busy and put it on and then realized what I'd done. But I heard a story about a guy one time who, I guess they bought a chainsaw and they put it on backwards and they could never get it to cut, and they were all upset with this chainsaw. The angles, okay, that you can see there's an angle, the points always go forward to the end of the bar. Okay, if you put them on, like let's say the front of the bar is here and you're trying to cut because it goes this direction, obviously you're not going to do too good. So that's one thing to remember. Some chainsaws, the bar will have a top and an upside down too. I find it's just best to put it on the way it came off, okay, just by the lettering. Now, your chain will fit inside these grooves. Okay, that's how it goes on. A chain will also have a little wheel sometimes at the end. And as far as bar wear goes, because these will wear down too, I'm getting pretty close to probably needing to replace this one. I don't know. These were sticking out, and I took it to my mechanic, and he said, no, that's still good. You just don't want it that it gets so wore out, and they'll wear at the tip first, that that won't ride flat on there. If it starts coming out like this, then it's time to replace it, I would say. But that is still pretty, smooth on there. Another thing that can happen too, this is a little trick I just learned not too long ago. If you start doing a lot of cutting, and maybe you guys, some of you are amateurs, but you've done a lot of cutting, sometimes you get it, and all of a sudden what happens is your bar, you start cutting through a log and it goes in an angle like this, right? Or it goes like this. Or you put it down and it just won't cut, and you can't figure out why. You've got it sharp. What happens is you get a little burr build up on the edge of this and down in here. And I've had this happen to me a couple of times, and I've even gone so far as to replacing the bar, and you don't need to do that. I don't need to do it on this bar, but I'm going to give you a demonstration how that works. You get a burr, take your file, and smooth out that edge, like this. You want it so that it's nice. You don't feel that there'll be like a little edge on each part of the steel right here, and then right on the edge there. Because what happens is that'll actually stick out further than your chain cutting ability is. So what happens is it'll go right in, and then it'll stop, and it'll sit right there. And I've had this happen, and you can't figure out why that saw won't cut. Or you'll get a burr on one side, say on the top's usually where it happens, it'll start cutting, and like I said, as you cut through your log, it starts cutting like this. So that's one way you can service your bar.